Okay, we're here. It's a beautiful Colorado evening at City Park. I'm with my good friend Adam Platt, who is a, I guess, relocated Kentuckian out to Colorado. Adam went to law school at UK and is out here now. He is currently the vice president of the Denver Young Dems organization. And Adam, before I ask you any questions, I just want to note that this is one great sunset that you've arranged for us.
Yes, especially for you all. It's beautiful.
And the ambient folk music in the background is also exquisite. So thanks for doing all that for us.
Anytime.
So Adam, let's start off by talking about the caucus experience. I know Kentuckians don't caucus, but you and your wife MC did caucus in February, and what was that like?
Actually, we caucused with our son Isaac too. He was
okay.
one. The caucus experience is incredible because it is an opportunity to get together with all of your neighbors. It's done on a district by district level.
Okay.
And you get to meet with basically people who live within, at least here in Denver, within probably a 10-block radius of where you live.
So you get to meet up with like-minded people
exactly.
that you would never have met up with before.
All registered Democrats who live within the same area. And essentially you get together in a big room and you kind of do a straw poll in a sense based on...
Kind of see where everybody's at.
Right, see where everybody is.
Okay.
And so essentially they say people for Obama go to one corner, people for Hillary go to another corner. We met in a gym in a local school and we separated in that way. We talked amongst ourselves, talked about politics.
Was there speechifying?
There was a little bit, essentially. So we separated our different ways, and in the end, you have to kind of each district has to decide on one person.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. And so essentially, what happens is you end up you go back out, and you have the opportunity to talk to people, supporters for other candidates. Essentially try to convince those people to come to your side.
Oh, okay.
And so there's like a 15-minute process in which, actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that you have to decide on one person. There are a number of undecided people, at least, who, who are just kind of standing in the middle. You kind of divide your ways, and then you're given an opportunity for everybody just to break and go talk politics, And so you just had
cool.
It was amazing because, on a local level, you're literally talking to your neighbors and trying to convince them in the language that you share and that you understand, the issues that are important to you and to your neighborhood. This is why I support, in my case, Barack Obama.
Right.
And this is why, I'd like you to vote for them too, for him as well.
That's awesome.
It's great because, certainly I approve of the idea of, a secret ballot and primaries as it's done in Kentucky, and that's great. But it's wonderful to be able to just have this open political experience. And this year was wonderful because there were literally just hundreds of people there, whereas in previous years maybe you'd have a dozen at best. So much more interest and so much enthusiasm about it. So it's a great process. I really have enjoyed being involved in the caucus process and being here.
Awesome. Now, I mentioned earlier you're vice president of the Denver Young Dems organization, and I know they're co-hosting this event, and I gotta say, awesome event. Way to go.
Thank you.
Again, the sunset is truly magnificent that you all have organized. Besides this watch party, it's Tuesday night. We're going to be watching Hillary Clinton here, and there's a huge crowd out behind me. What else are you guys working on right now?
Essentially, I think that we view our role as trying to bring young people into the Democratic Party, to get people more involved with volunteer opportunities, to get people more involved with campaigns in terms of walking the streets, disseminating literature, knocking on doors for candidates, really promoting Democratic candidates and trying to sell Democratic ideals to young folks.
It's got to be kind of a split between selling young people on the ideas of the Democratic Party and then also activating those who have already bought into the ideas of the Democratic Party.
It is. I mean, and honestly, there's very much of a social aspect too. We meet at least once a month. We usually meet at a bar. We'll have we'll have a speaker. Most of the time, we'll have a speaker talking about a certain event issue that's important nationally or important locally. For example, if they're, for example, in November we have a number of proposed constitutional amendments that are on the ballot.
Right.
And those are obviously very important to a lot of Coloradans. And so we'll have a speaker come and talk about those issues. Talk about, what's good about them, what's bad about them, and try to persuade people essentially to take an interest and how they should vote.
And you can do that while having a beer.
And you can do that while having a beer.
Sounds like a great organization.
You should come.
I know.
So we have a social time for about half an hour, and then speaker for about half an hour, and then people kind of break and talk with the speaker and each other, about that issue or others.
Well, I want to get your perspective on this this idea that the New West is the new frontier for Democratic majority in America. What's the next 3 months look like for Colorado in terms of political dynamics?
I think that the West, the West is changing in the sense that, especially Colorado, people are migrating to Colorado, but also I think that environmental issues have come up more and more in terms of importance to Coloradans. Traditionally, Colorado has been very divided between Denver and Boulder, which have been relatively liberal, very strong Democratic bastions.
Right.
And honestly, much of the rest of the state, which is relatively conservative and is leaned Republican. However, that's starting to change somewhat, just as in other western states, for example, Montana with a Democratic governor, and a number of other Democratic kind of inroads into these states.
So people are beginning to migrate towards the Democratic Party in these states because of environmental protection issues?
Well, I think that's part of it, and I mentioned that specifically because on the western slope, which is essentially everything in Colorado west of the Rockies kind of run through just adjacent to Boulder and Denver, essentially. Sure. And that area has been very conservative. There are a lot of ranchers, there are a lot of farmers. However, gas drilling and mining is very important out there. It's been a very big issue. It's important for jobs. There are a lot of people who are experiencing a lot of economic success because of the increasing price of gas.
Sure.
In terms of workers who are working at the drilling platforms and so forth, drilling units, as well as more so, honestly, the companies that are actually doing the drilling and sponsoring it. But the environmental ramifications of the drilling is very real. There's a great deal of water pollution. I think there are a great deal of other issues that have arisen as a result of the increased drilling. In addition to forested areas, you have new roads going in, and so I think environmental issues are important in that sense. But I think also Democrats are starting to do a much better job of connecting with the average person in terms of from a faith perspective, and also from a real economic, we understand what you're going through perspective, especially after the last 8 years of Republican control in the presidency, as well as in the national legislatures. They've talked about their interest and their concern for the common man, but they've not delivered. In practice, they've shown that interest is not really there.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I'm going to let you go enjoy some more great barbecue, and thanks very much for talking with us, and keep up the good work here in Colorado.
It's good to talk to you.
Sorry that we lost you from Kentucky.
Beautiful state.